So. Never mind then. Forget it. I don't want to talk about anything.
I didn't know you were going to start talking right there. I was like, all right, let's start this sucker. And the second I press the button, you're like, so what's in the news, huh? I mean, hello. I'm Pedro.
And I'm Meredith.
And this is Gritty Reboot. So what did you want to talk about that was more important than the introduction to this fine show?
I was going to bring up one of our favorite pastimes, which was watching accidents on YouTube.
You mean like the start of the show, accident?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do like that. We do like watching car wrecks, everything like that.
Yeah.
I think we used to watch that kind of crap on cable, and YouTube fills in for a few of those things that were just time wasters on cable, like on a Saturday or a Sunday, which it's a Saturday afternoon right now. But you would watch I would watch Cops. I was never a big fan of Cops, but I know you watch shows like that, and if you just watch TV during the week, there'd be like, the craziest stories, the craziest crashes of the highway patrol. And I think there was always sort of a need or a niche for that. And, that's not really what paid television is about anymore. Those niches are filled by YouTube and most internet. Well, I mean, YouTube's really the only game in town for something like that. There's no other YouTube-esque website that just has a bunch of random bullshit videos.
Yeah.
It's been around for 15 plus years.
It's a guilty pleasure.
It is, yeah. I do find it weird where viewing tastes sort of change in that respect, but still the demand for certain kind of content is there no matter what.
There's another type of video that we like to watch is those ones where he cleans the rug.
See, that's a new kind of medium.
That's a new kind of thing.
Because people find that kind of relaxing, but you would never 15, 20 years ago find a show like, hey,
let me clean this rug.
Yeah, what's the show? Oh, I'm just going to power wash things.
Yeah.
And? Well, I'm just going to power wash it. So it's like a game competition contest? Like, no, I'm just going to power wash it. And we just put some serene music kind of behind it or just have sound effects.
Yeah.
What's there? And that's it. And they'd be like, get the fuck out of here. But that is a successful genre of media these days. And that's something that only exists because I guess people were advertising their services on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram. And people really liked those videos. So then people just started washing any fucking rug they could find with whatever sort of cleaning apparatuses they had.
Yeah.
It reminded me of those restoration YouTube videos that are like faked. I remember that because I used to watch some of those for gaming channels. Like one guy found like a Game Boy Advance in like a lake. Like he just found a Game Boy Advance in a lake, pulled out and got it working again. I was like, hey, wait a minute. That's not a thing you can do.
Yeah.
But that's just, the kind of market that they had for that. But anyway, so this is Gritty Reboot, a show all about YouTube and YouTube trends and whatever random bullshit you might be watching that aren't movie reboots. Meredith agrees.
Baby.
Meredith agrees.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Meredith, what are we doing this week?
We are finally breaking in to a family genre.
That's right. Porn.
No. That's not.
It's not a family-friendly genre.
No.
We can't get it in Texas anymore.
I know.
Texas is banned from Pornhub. Yeah.
Taking away our freedoms one day at a time.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Anyways, we're doing Jumanji this week, 1995.
Robin Williams, Bonnie Hunt in Jumanji.
Yeah. Kirsten Dunst.
I'm glad.
It's my curse.
I'm sure that you and your kids will be very happy.
Every house.
I need to put a light for when I'm going to hit like a sound effect or anything like that. Or I need to do like and now, like a big movement with my hand to indicate when I'm going to do this. This Jumanji trailer has a ton of stories, so we're just talking right over it. But Jumanji
was just a young boy.
Directed by John Johnstone, I believe.
Yeah.
Was it John Johnstone?
I believe so.
Old Johnny Johnstone. He did Jurassic Park 3, which I am a defender of.
Yeah, it's all right.
And he also did Captain America, The First Avenger, which I think is a really strong movie in the phase 1 of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
I enjoy that one. I enjoyed that one a lot more than I enjoyed Thor, and certainly more than I enjoyed Iron Man 2. Mm-hmm. But he has had some
incredible
He's never been what I'd call like a great director, but he can get the job done.
Yeah.
of their own.
And that sort of sums this movie up entirely, I think.
They get the job done.
It gets the job done, but it's not great. It's not great. And there's a lot of things that hold it back. Not all the director's fault. I think there's a lot of weird things going on in this movie and a few things that make it lean more towards mediocre than classic.
I think all those things add up to be a fun movie.
I think it can be fun, but
Yeah.
it does drag a bit in a few spots, so performances do help. This, like I said, it's an odd kind of film when you think about it. Like, if you really think about this is maybe the most subdued Robin Williams performance
Yeah,
in a movie
true.
ever. Like, this is the least Robin Williams part he might have played besides 1 Hour Photo.
Well, they didn't really originally want Robin Williams
Yeah.
because of that, because he's known for improv.
Yeah.
And they did not want any improv. They wanted somebody to stick to the script. And he basically promised that he would stick to the script. And he basically did. The only time he ever really improvs through the movie is with Bonnie Hunt, with scenes with her. I don't know why they let her do it with scenes with her, but that's apparently...
Well, they had really good chemistry. I think that's
The only
one thing
time
that does
yeah.
help. And it's one thing that does help the movie to a large extent.
Right, let's get this fucking show on the road.
Let's get this show on the road. First off, before we get going, though, what was your first memory of Jumanji?
Oh, when it came out, I remember seeing the trailer and being really excited. I loved Robin Williams as a kid, as every kid does at our age. I mean, he was big during that time, so yeah, just excited to see it. And when I saw it, it was amazing. I owned it. I remember the case. It was a VHS, and they did like every once in a while you get a movie and it had that big puffy case.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the big puffy plastic.
Yeah, they had this big kind of white, like,
Yeah.
so it was designed for kids, so it couldn't be destroyed as easy.
Yeah, so I remember the movie fondly.
I went to go see Jumanji in the theaters when it came out, and I do remember at the time it got mixed reviews when it came out. Currently, the movie sits, I think, at a 50% Rotten Tomato, 51%,
Yeah.
pardon me. So a little bit north of mixed reviews, but not great. And that is generally the consensus at the time. I do remember that from when I went to go see it, but I did find an enjoyable movie that even then as a kid I knew was flawed. But I did find it enjoyable. But like I said, I do recall checking it out, but I don't really have any other memories of it from then, other than thinking even then some of the effects didn't look so great.
Yeah.
I do remember having that feeling as a kid. So this is a $65 million budgeted film, brings in $265 million worldwide. Massive hit. Yeah, massive hit.
Yeah, Robin Williams would do that.
He could do no wrong. He could do no wrong at that point.
All right. Well, we start this movie in 1869, and it's two kids, and they have like this big ancient old case.
Yeah.
And inside the case, you just hear drums. Yeah.
You know, like over and over again, the kids are terrified of the drums. So you're left to assume watching this again that they played the game to completion one time.
Mhm.
And now they're like, we just have to make sure no one ever does it again. The scene is like really, really overly dramatic.
It's so dramatic.
Yeah, but like in a really good way. It's darkness and there's like an oncoming storm. The kids are terrified the game's going to get them, even though they don't know that's not how it works, apparently, if they played it. There is a line that I like. What if somebody finds it out here? Then may God have mercy on their souls.
I
Or
know.
something like that. Even with a lightning strike, it is very intense and almost comedic, but it's not played like that. By the way, it's Joe Johnston.
Joe
Not John Johnston.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Joe.
good correction.
Joe Johnston. I had to go to the Wikipedia real quick while we were talking just to be certain I got his name right and I got it wrong. So sorry, Joe.
Well, one of the kids wants to leave, but the other one's like, nah, man, we got to stay.
Yeah.
We got to finish this. And so they do. They end up burying the case.
Yeah, they bury that sucker and they leave it in the earth where it will never, ever be disturbed.
And then we go to, I believe, 1969.
Yeah, so we get a graphic match to 1969 where they buried it originally was a desolate forest, is now on the outskirts of the whatever town the parishes live in.
Yeah.
Let's call it Parish.
Near the shoe factory.
The shoe factory. Parish shoes.
Pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Yep. We come into a nice scene, a serene town with a bunch of kids running around. Everybody's happy and smiling.
This is idyllic, like
blah,
1950s
blah, blah.
America.
Yeah. Alan is on his bike being followed by a bunch of bullies. He ends up at his father's shoe factory.
And by the way, when you mean a bunch of bullies, you mean like 6 kids.
Yeah.
He
mobbed.
Yeah, he passes by these kids, and you see like one of them go, it's Paris, let's go get him. And all of a sudden, it's like a fucking clown car opens up, and like 6 other kids come wheeling out with bicycles, ready to kick the crap out of this guy. I'm like, this isn't like a group of kids. This is like a posse of bullies that have gathered together. They're working together to split lunch monies. They've got this operation down pat.
Yeah.
And now they're coming here to get their pound of flesh from Parrish.
Yeah, it's a lot, but I imagine it happens. I imagine a bunch of bullies get together and they just.
You think so? They got they're able to like.
In movies, why wouldn't it be true?
I guess you're right. A bunch of bullies get together. Like, here's how we're going to split the milk money that we get. I'll take the lunch monies. You get the early milk monies. You grab dessert stuff.
I'm assuming the main bully just gets everything.
You think they just assign duties out? Okay, we got to give swirlies out to Munson, all right? Who's swirling Munson tomorrow? We got to get that done, all right?
Yeah, and they got to collect lunch money and get as much money as they can.
Yeah. It's like a business.
It's an enterprise.
Yeah. They got to get a DBA, like Bullies Incorporated.
Yeah.
We just made a whole new fascinating movie about these bullies. And they don't even get their time in the sun in this movie.
Only a little bit. Just
a little bit, yeah. So they chase Alan over to the shoe factory.
He goes into his father's factory and he sees Carl, who is a guy that's works on the shoe line.
Played by young David Allen Greer.
Yeah.
Well, he is younger here, but you know.
He shows Alan the shoe he created, and it's a lot like a high top from Nike.
But it's like a 90s high top, by the way. It's not like the high top that like other shoe companies were just like going to make in like 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Like it's way further advanced.
Ahead of time.
Yeah. I wanted to mention that. I was like, well, it looks like it looks like they just went to like Foot Locker and they grabbed a popular shoe and said, let's just generic this and put Parrish on the side. It doesn't really work, but it's kind of whatever. It's so people understand the point.
Alan's father basically comes into the picture and it's like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Yeah, Alan's like, child, what the fuck are you doing here? Get out of here, kid. I don't give a shit as your bully outside. You go there and get your ass kicked. That's what you deserve.
Alan leaves the shoe that Carl showed him on the conveyor, which accidentally shuts down the whole factory line.
Yeah. He's trying to get something else ready, so he doesn't realize his shoe is on the conveyor belt. He doesn't realize that Alan's even left. So by the time he turns around, he realizes that that's where his shoe went. He got left on the conveyor belt, and it destroys the whole thing.
And Jonathan Hyde plays his father.
He does. This is Jonathan Hyde, who's a very good character actor.
Mm-hmm.
He's good in dual roles in this film.
Well, Alan has to go outside because his father doesn't want him in the shoe factory, so he gets mauled by a bunch of bullies.
Yeah.
They beat him up, bloody lip, and...
like 2 black eyes. Like, they really mess him up. They really mess him up.
He hears thumping, and he crawls down into a place where they're digging, and he finds this chest sticking out, and he unburies it.
He unburies it.
He unburies it.
He unburies it, and he unopens it. Later, they're going to unplay the game.
Whatever, dude.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry.
Don't you make fun of the way I speak?
I never make fun of the way you speak, lady. So he pulls the game out from the construction site. And I love it. Like this whole time he's doing, there's a worker just kind of staring at him.
Yeah.
And the worker isn't just like, hey, kid, get out of here. He's like, let's see where this goes. Because, you know, he just sees a kid with a black eye and a bloody lip come down the stairs, go over to one certain spot for no reason at all, start clawing at the clay and the dirt and pulling out like an ancient chest.
Yeah.
And then this thing out. So he's like, what the hell was that? Like, I'm sure he was just like, that's the weirdest thing I've seen all week.
Just entertained.
Yeah. Just entertained. He's like, where's my popcorn? Construction was fascinating to me.
Unentertained.
Yeah. That's the new name of the show.
He finds a game. He takes it home. He opens it accidentally, and 2 pieces drop on the board. And he tries to move the pieces, but he can't.
Yeah, he assumes that it's some kind of magnetism or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it shows just a small taste of the magic from the game.
Alan's parents are getting ready to leave for a party. They think that they're surprising him by offering him the school of boys school that he's going to be going to. I forget what it's called, Cliffside or Cliff Force. I don't know, something Cliff.
Yeah, just some boarding school that his dad's psyched about it.
He's psyched about it because like all the generations of
parish men went there.
Yeah. And he's like, whatever. Well, the parents leave in a huff because they...
Well, yeah, because it's just like, hey, here's your reward. Get the fuck out of the house.
Yeah, we don't like you anymore.
Yeah, we don't like you anymore.
Eventually, Sarah shows up, who basically the main bully that was beating him up was interested in this girl, Sarah. Happens to be friends with Alan.
Yeah, I think that Sarah was his girlfriend, and Alan is just good friends with her.
Mm-hmm.
And this got the shit kicked out of him. So she brings back his bicycle, I believe, because the bullies stole that. Which does bring up a good question. If the bullies stole his bicycle, wouldn't one of them have to left a bicycle behind?
You would think.
But why? I mean, did they just drag Alan's bicycle there? You can't get it back if you already have the same number of bicycles. Two bullies, were they carrying it in between them? I want answers, Jumanji.
I think you're being a little too precise.
Well, I'm just saying, it doesn't make any sense. Perhaps I'm suggesting the internal logic of Jumanji doesn't hold up to scrutiny.
This is a family movie.
Oh, that's your excuse for everything.
You just take things for granted when it comes to a family movie.
Very well. I'll just have to live with it.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can put it aside and enjoy the rest of the film.
Okay. So she comes to drop off the bike. She hears a thumping.
Mm-hmm.
He basically shows her the game and asks if she wants to play. She tells him basically no and drops the dice.
She's like, I haven't played board games since I was like 10.
Yeah. The pieces move, and then a riddle shows up for the player. And it's about bats.
It's something bats. Yeah. Is what it is. Because they're all little riddles and rhymes and stuff like that.
And then Alan, they start to hear bats in the fireplace.
Now, weirdly, this is the only time in the lore of Jumanji where someone rolls and the effect does not immediately take place. This is the only time it ever occurs.
Yeah, because Alan rolls and he has to wait in the jungle until somebody rolls a 5 or an 8.
He almost got it perfect until somebody rolls a 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and then he gets an effect that is, obviously it doesn't look very good, but it is weirdly disturbing by how poorly it does look, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like him like slowly stretching out and getting sucked into the game as she starts to scream, and then she is chased out by the bats finally come in, a turn too late.
Yeah, and they chase her all the way down the street.
Yeah, one like harasses her, like gets right up on her, and like chases her right out of there, and then the door shuts behind her, and then we have another graphic match 30 years down or 25 years down the line.
Yep, we're in present day, and it's 1995.
Yeah, it's 1995, baby. That's right. All the stocks are rising. Apple's down for the count. Bill Clinton's president.
Only soon will they not be.
That's right. Yeah, this is that rare time Apple was like a shit company.
Yeah. Judy, played by Kirsten Dunst, and Peter, played by Bradley Pierce, tour their new house, which is the old parish house that Alan disappeared from.
So the movie has a real asset here in Kirsten Dunst. I think her performance here is really good.
Yeah.
A lot of child actors aren't going to be able to rise to the level that she easily does in this film. And it is sort of refreshing because the kid parts, both are played very well, can usually drag a movie like this down. And that's not something we have to really worry about in this movie. You know, there's some interesting elements to the screenplay that I want to talk about, and I'll do it while we're here. We're kind of sandwiched in between my two favorite ideas in this script. And it's that we have lost parentage.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have in the previous segment, you know, we talk about it a little bit more as we move on, but there's a level of sorrow and sort of heartbreak when you think about the last conversation a father and son had was an argument.
Yeah.
And then his son never, ever appears again. The level of guilt he'd have to carry and stuff like that when you start thinking about that. And then on this other side, you have these other two children who come in and they don't have any, you know, their parents have been killed.
Parents are killed.
And there is some heaviness to this script. And I think it handles it in a pretty nice way for about the first half of the movie. Yeah,
because Kirsten Dunst's character, she basically becomes a habitual liar.
Yeah, pathological liar.
Yeah. Peter, he doesn't talk to anyone.
Yeah, he's a mute with anyone except his sister.
Yeah, so they both obviously have issues stemming from their parents' death.
Yeah, there's a scene just a little bit later on where they both kind of call each other out on their issues, and
it's a nice moment.
Yeah, it really is. That it's well done by these actors, and it's nice to show that there was this traumatic event, and it's not just this window dressing for the characters. Like, it has an effect on them. Like, it's something that those kids will carry it around forever.
Yeah,
there's a theme of trauma running through the movie. It doesn't really land the theme, but it does run throughout most of it.
Yeah. Well, Peter goes upstairs and he hears some squeaking, and it turns out to be bats, and he shuts the door and runs away.
The same bats from earlier.
And then we see Judy playing a joke on the realtor, which she's basically lying to her about her parents.
Yeah, they're like UN peacekeepers, and they're playing exploder spies or something.
The exterminator comes by and tells the kids about the owners of the house previously and how they think that he chopped up his son and buried him in a million pieces.
This kind of thing to get you a bad review on Angie's List.
Yeah.
You go there and tell the kids disturbing stories about the house they now live in.
Yeah, like our neighbors when we first moved into the Piedmont house, where they were like, somebody died in your living room. We had to live in there.
Yeah, and it wasn't anything nefarious. It's just an old lady who passed away. I believe.
Yeah.
She just passed away in the house. Trust me, if you live in any house that's old, somebody's died in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll die in this house.
Probably will.
Yeah. Take you with me.
No. Yeah, they killed his son and buried him in the walls.
There's a fun note you just passed through. And like yada yada, killed his son, buried him on the walls. And we're doing a family movie this week. Then this is kind of a fucked family movie. This is the only family we can get away with in the 90s.
Yeah.
I do want to mention, because it does have really dark, heavy themes to it. And I mean, I don't think the effects are great, but there's a lot of intense stuff. Like if you're 6 years old watching this movie.
Mm-hmm. They go to bed and hear thumping. The next day they hear it again. They hear it, and it's so mesmerizing to them that their aunt is talking to them, and they're just like blowing her off, basically. They go towards the sound and find the game. It's upstairs in the attic. They notice 2 pawns can't be moved.
Yeah, and they try whatever they can to get it. And there's a nice fun joke about the passage of time. Earlier, the kids thought it was magnets that did it. And in 95, the kids think it's microchips that hold the game together, which is kind of amusing.
They end up playing the game, and giant mosquitoes come out, and Judy knocks one out of the window. Mm-hmm. Peter rolls and gets monkeys, and so monkeys are destroying their kitchen.
The mosquito effect wasn't that bad. Mm-hmm. It's CG, and there are practical ones when they land, but it's CG. But insects tend to, I guess, look always a little bit better when they're CG, just due to the fact they don't have skin and stuff like that.
Yeah,
the monkeys are maybe one of the worst effects in the history of cinema. Yeah, they look really bad.
They look like baby dolls with hair.
Yeah, because that's the problem. They don't look like monkeys. Like, even if the effect was rendered with higher polygons, they still wouldn't look like a monkey looks. Like it's like a cartoon monkey that's supposed to be real. Like, all the other animals are supposed to be realistic, but these monkeys are like cartoon monkeys running around. And the effect looked awful back in 95. It doesn't really hold up much better today.
Yeah.
It's got to be hands down one of the worst effects you'd really ever see in a movie. And the fact is, we see these monkeys a lot. That's really the worst part of the effect. We see many of them in this scene over and over again. They come back with the cop car. They're riding a motorcycle later. These monkeys are all over the movie.
Yeah. The effects are terrible. They're just awful. I mean, they don't hold up at all.
It's tough for a big blockbuster effects picture to have bad effects.
Yeah.
But this movie does have really lousy effects. There's no other way to really cut it.
Well, Peter, he had rolled doubles, so he has to go again, and they get a lion. And that's when they roll an 8 and get Alan out of Jumanji jail.
They do get him out of the world of Jumanji finally.
30 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, our lead character finally shows up. And he shows up along with a pretty unconvincing line effect.
Yeah, that's partially practical.
The line is bad practically, and the line is worse in CG. At least it does move around in CG, which is nice. They slowly reveal light on the lion's head as he pushes his way out of the shadows. And like the second you see it, it looks instantly phony.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm not asking for every effect to look 100% real, but it looks phony in a cheap way. and it always does. It looks more like something you'd see at Universal Studios than what you would see in a movie. It's theme park quality, not movie quality. And I think that's a real shame about it.
Alan traps the lion into his aunt's bedroom, and then he starts to explore his old bedroom. He grabs Peter and shakes him for rolling a 5 or an 8.
Yeah, he sort of freaks out, and he thinks he's going to be killed, by the way, because he's just this weird hairy guy that comes out of there wearing, by the way, a really crappy jungle costume.
Yeah.
Because it's just like clearly like IKEA, like plastic leaves hanging around his whole attire and everything like that. It looks like they just ran to a costume store and got like a Tarzan suit. And
he's wearing like a turtle shell for a hat.
Yeah. It's a pretty weak jungle attire. And he's going to wear this for at least another 15, 20 minutes before he gets in his normal attire. Now we're sort of getting to about the tragedy because like he comes out and he's all thrilled about finally getting there and he runs around the house. Mom, Dad, where are you? Mom, Dad. And that's when he's introduced the idea that it's been 24 years, right?
Yeah.
Or 26?
Yeah, 1969 and 1995.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So
26 years.
26 years. He's been introduced to this concept that all this time is lost and it's hit him. And it's hit him really hard. It's one of the things that I think is interesting because the movie really tries to weave this thread for about the next 10 to 15 minutes, right? Alan's going to sort of run through the town looking for the things that he knows, only to find this new strange world.
Yeah.
And as he does this, he runs through and he goes to the old Paris shoe factory.
Yeah.
And we have one of the better scenes of exposition. And you can stop me if I know I'm probably passing over a few things here. It is a moment that I like is when he meets with the old homeless man who lived inside the factory, and he sort of gives him the update on what's been happening for those 26 years he's been gone.
Yeah, the only thing you missed was him meeting Carl.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry,
adult Carl.
Yeah, there is. Well, Carl was always an adult.
Yeah, well, yeah,
yeah
whatever.
Older
Carl.
He got more adultish. Yeah. He could look at deeper, harder pornography.
He's the cop. But yeah, basically he does go to the factory and he meets this old dude.
Yeah. The monkeys, by the way, this is where they get into the police car when he meets Carl.
Yeah.
He just sets that up for later. They look terrible out in the sunlight as well. But yes, he does meet this old bum. And first of all, we have the 90s cliche of the very helpful and warm homeless person. You see this in Home Alone 2 as well. And he gets him clothes. That's where he gets his attire. He gives him like real clothes. And he lets Alan know that his parents and where they're at. He does it cryptically though, right?
Yeah.
Where are my parents? Oh, I see them every now and then on Wabasha. And Wabasha is a cemetery.
Yeah. And
it's a touching scene here at the cemetery, right?
His parents are at a cemetery, yeah.
Because he's down there and the movie takes a second to breathe. Like literally just like a beat of him just kneeling in front of his parents' grave. And you see the two kids in the back. And immediately Kirsten Dunst's character says, our parents are dead too. And she goes to her coping mechanism and she starts saying they were UN ambassadors. And Peter immediately stops her. And he comes over there. And because he identifies with Alan, he just grabs his hand. He speaks to him.
Yeah.
This is as close as the movie gets to anything emotional. And it's kind of sad because it does it really well. This is a really nice scene between the two of them.
Yeah.
Like I started criticism where like you don't buy the relationship between these characters. They've only just met each other. And I was like, yeah, but they have a kindred bond of this trauma. I mean, granted, his parents died of old age, but he just found out.
Yeah.
I'm sure Alan thought he was older, but he maybe thought he was 15 or 16, right? He didn't think he was 30 something, so I can understand they have this connection because of that. And I think it's a really interesting idea by this movie, but we really don't explore it much really after we leave this scene.
No, it's pretty much over after that.
Yeah, sadly.
They go off and they come across some giant mosquitoes. They hop in a car belonging to someone who was just
these mosquitoes, by the way, will fuck you up, apparently. Like, if you get stung, like, you'll just immediately, like, pass out with some weird sickness.
Yeah, this lady who was the car they're stealing, she was stung by one of these mosquitoes, and she ends up with the paramedics.
It's a realtor.
Yeah.
From earlier.
They follow Alan back to the house where Alan
has to drive a car for the first time ever, by the way.
Yeah. He goes back and he does the 3 S's. Shit, shower, and shave.
Yeah. It's a nice scene where he's just thankful to have a toilet again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter calls Alan afraid, and he's like, no, sir, let me tell you a fucked up story.
Alan sort of chimes into Peter. He's like, I've seen things you've only dreamt about in your nightmares.
He's so serious.
Yeah, it's a very intense performance from this. Once again, Robin Williams is not particularly funny in this movie at all.
They realize they need to play the game in order for it to get everything back to normal. So they go off to play the game and realize that it's not any of their turn. It's Sarah's turn. So they go off to find her.
Because there is a thing early on where Alan's like, all right, I'm out of here. I'm going to grab some food and I'm taking off. I don't need any of this crap anymore. And that's when he realizes he's still in the game that they started all those years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that, of course, leads him to the discovery that he's not even the one that can go. So they have to go look her up.
Yeah, they find her. And it's a nice moment of her realizing who she's talking to. It's like an adult Alan.
Yeah, opening the door and her passing out immediately upon finding out. And she's played by the charming Bonnie Hunt,
Mm-hmm.
who is a great in this movie. And if she wasn't in this role, I don't know if I could even come close to liking this movie, because this is a character also brimming with trauma.
Yeah.
And the way she's able to play it in a realistic yet funny way, yet still has the warmth and a little bit of chemistry with Robin Williams, it's a really great performance in a Hollywood movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are the kind of performances that don't really get the praise and attention and the lavishness that the lavish praise they sort of deserve. But this is a really good performance from Bonnie Hunt that really helps hold the movie together.
Yeah, there's a nice moment where they're back at the old parish home and they bring out Jumanji and she just glances at it and she just gets up and it's like, no.
Yeah.
I don't want
She
anything
just
to do with it.
Yeah, because she's the call with her therapist.
Yeah.
She's like, so that boy who doesn't exist, who disappeared, who didn't really disappear, he's back and I'm having an episode and I'd really like to get your opinion on it. Like she is absolutely losing her shit. But she's like, she understands that what she's seeing is real, but she's losing her mind about it. Like I said, it's such a great and manic performance from her.
Well, she realizes she has to play, so she sits down and rolls, and vines start sprouting everywhere, and a giant flower grabs Peter.
Yeah, a big vine comes out of his mouth. He tries to pull him in. Alan grabs the sword and chops the vine, and that temporarily stops the vine threat, but the vines continue to grow throughout the film.
Yeah.
But they're no longer a threat to our protagonist. You really have to defeat like the one challenge with most of the. Actually, there's no set rule for how these things work.
Mm-mm. We get a scene of Carl, the cop, who finds his cop car and decides to head to the parish house, and his cop car is like demolished.
Yeah, from the monkeys stealing it.
Yeah. Sarah tries to leave again, but basically because it's ruined her life and she doesn't really want to play it, but Alan convinces her to stay.
Well, he tricks her, which I love. He's like, listen, if you don't want to play, you don't have to play. I don't want to put that kind of pressure on you. Just hand me the dice. And he holds out his hand. And the second she drops them in, he turns his hand so they fall right onto the board and she's forced to play.
Mm-hmm.
Which is one of the things that I loved in this. She's trapped in here no matter what.
Alan rolls and gets Van Pelt the hunter.
So this is your sort of cliche big game hunter from like the late 1800s.
Yeah.
This also, by the way, is played by the same actor who plays his father. There is no real connection here there's no thematic connection at all between like all the stuff I talked to you about, the trauma and, you know, what his father thought and how that played in thing. It's nothing.
Yeah,
they just reuse actors. It doesn't, there's no payoff or anything to this. So it is a little bit strange, but it does not take away from a fantastic performance by
Jonathan Hyde,
who's great in dual roles here. He's coming in, chewing scenery, and like the way he just takes command of the movie from this point as the big game hunter is really great because he's immediately the chief antagonist.
Yeah.
Which is the movie didn't have one at this point. It just, bam, gets exactly what it needed. I feel like a screenwriter did a lazy job and it just kind of worked because they got an actor who came in and got it. Yeah.
Kind of weird halfway through the movie.
Yeah, it just appears and it really works. He does a great job and he's a looming thread and he has another really fun scene later in the gun shop.
He chases Alan out of the house and the hunter shoots up the cop car that Carl's in.
Poor Carl, once again, he comes around and gets shot at by an old school 1890s rifle.
Alan sneaks back into the house and then Peter rolls and he gets a stampede.
This was seen in all the trailers. And the thing I love about it is the clue is clearly saying a stampede.
Yeah.
It clearly indicates that that's what's going to occur. Yet when the thing starts shaking, Robin Williams has to slowly walk towards the wall and be like, what's going on? Like it's a stampede. There's a bunch of things coming. That's why it's shaking. Get out of there.
Yeah.
But he has to slowly get there. And then he's like, it's a stampede. And then they take off and they run from a fairly gamey 90s effect.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the rhinos don't look so bad, but some of the other animals aren't quite as nice, but they move pretty quickly. So it's not too bad.
The shot of the last rhino that's kind of
like jogging.
Yeah.
Walking, yeah.
That's actually like an error.
Oh, really?
In the CG, but they just left it in.
Because it was funny?
Yeah. They left it in and gave it the snorting noises.
It's a good little signature because every time you see the herd, there's always one dragging behind.
Yeah. They escape the house, but a pelican runs off with the game.
There's a weird slow motion effect on this pelican when it grabs it. Did you notice that? Like it has like a weird like motion blur. I don't know what it is, but he goes. I don't know if this is how they just slowed things down in the 90s before they had easy use of computers or whatever. But it's a weird looking effect, and they grab it. Also, by the way, the pelican is not the best puppet in the world.
No.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, it's very Sesame Street quality.
Yeah.
It looks cartoonish.
Yeah.
More than it looks realistic, and I don't think it's supposed to. Is the thing.
We have a scene where Van Pelt, he's out of bullets, so he goes to try to get new bullets, and basically the gun owner is like, no, these bullets are from 1904. And he offers him something a little bit different. So they close the shop.
Yeah, it's great because he's going through all I think it was the Brady Bill at the time, all those regulations, the waiting period, all the forms you got to fill out, and the hunter just throws down like 40 gold coins. He's like, you know what, I can fill these out. You don't have to worry about that waiting period.
Yeah.
And there's also a postal joke, by the way, which is very, very 90s.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Alan tracks down the game and
he finds Michael Douglas's The Game on VHS. Great movie.
Right?
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah. So they sit down. They watch Fincher's second film. Oh, that's not what you're talking about?
No.
Okay, sorry.
Carl spots Alan and arrests him.
As he should, because he doesn't know it's Alan.
Mm-hmm.
He just knows, man, every time I see you, fucking crazy ass, wild jungle shit starts happening.
Peter decides to roll, so he's trying to cheat the game.
Yeah. I think he needs 8 to win, so he tries to hold it and just drop it that way.
And he starts turning into a monkey.
And he has to go back to the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
As he's starting to transform, you can see his piece magically sliding back to the start of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't notice that. I saw that in some YouTube video.
Alan tells Carl who he is, and Carl freaks out. He almost crashes the cop car.
It's a fun scene. David Allen Greer is actually really good in this movie. He also is another performance that really helps this flick.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another bit from him where all the stuff really works with him and Robin Williams. It's weird as Robin Williams is the straight man in this movie.
Peter, Judy, and Sarah have to run from Van Pelt. They end up at a department store being looted. At this point, they're trying to get the game away from him, and they end up trapping him in there, and there's some Home Alone hijinks.
Yeah, there's some store hijinks in here where everybody's sort of running around. They drop him with an aisle of paint.
Yeah.
And he gets covered in the paint and everything like that, and everyone's able to get out of there.
Carl and Alan crash through the department store that's basically like a Walmart. But
I want to mention, it's like an early 90s Walmart.
Yeah.
Which is not at all like what a Walmart is today. Like a Walmart really was just a department store then. There was no groceries or anything like that. They were much smaller stores in 1994 when this was shot than they would be even in 2004.
And they cover Van Pelt in a bunch of paint, with trapping him underneath all of it. They escape, and Alan's a little pissed with Peter for becoming a monkey.
Yeah, for cheating at the game.
He scolds him, and then he ends up basically is like, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scold you.
Yeah.
It's a weird twist.
Yeah. This scene's really clunky because it tries to imply that I'm becoming like my father, even though I was in a jungle for years. I even think that's a line actually in there. He actually says the subtext. But it doesn't really play into anything. I never thought they had a father-son relationship necessarily, as much as I thought they were sort of friends with this trauma more than they were like father and son. And it just leads to this joke of he has no room for his tail.
Yeah.
And he just has to pull his pants down so his tail pops out.
Yeah.
And that's all it leads to. Did we not talk about the stampede through downtown? I think we skipped. I think that's right before the Walmart fight.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah. I wanted to mention that. That's BB Newworth, a veteran of sitcoms, Cheers specifically, as well as Frasier. But she has a nice scene where she's stopped at a railroad crossing, and then the what's it called come through?
The Stampede.
The Stampede goes through, and it still has the slow one. And they go through town, and they crush a car that Peter is inside of, which should have killed him.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that because I remember when I saw that, like, he should be dead. Because, like, the elephant steps directly on, like, the side of the vehicle that he's at. And, like, he's okay.
Yeah, he's a little guy.
He's just a little guy. He's just a little tiny thing.
Well, they head back to the house. And that's where we're just talking about Carl finds the ant on the road. And Carl gets got by the vines.
Yeah. It's a great running gag of Carl's car getting more and more fucked up as the movie goes on.
Yeah.
And eventually just the vine comes and destroys the vehicle.
They also
it's a great gag that Bibi Newirth just doesn't say a thing about the vehicle. She looks at the vehicle, sees it's messed up, and was like, I don't have time for that. Officer, I need help.
Yeah.
She just processes and goes, I got other problems.
They go back to, as I said, they walk back at the house and they start playing the game, and it starts monsooning. They get to higher ground, but almost get swept away. They see a crocodile.
It's an alligator.
It's a crocodile.
It's an alligator.
No, it's bigger.
It's an alligator.
You don't know.
I do know. They say in the movie.
No, they say crocodile.
They
and
say
even
alligator.
in interviews with Robin Williams, he says crocodile.
It's an alligator.
Anyways, Carl and the aunt get to the house, and
so all this water is like coming down inside the house as they're trying to avoid the alligator. And you also have Carl and Bibi Newirth. They arrive at the house and they can't get the door to open.
Yeah.
And so immediately he's like, hey, I got this. And he starts to kick the door open. And the second he kicks it, water starts coming through. And they do the great classic comedy bit where Carl and the aunt just sort of look at each other for a minute before a giant wall of water hits them, which should kill them, but they're fine. And they both go flying down there as that finally drains the house. Mm-hmm. At this time, like the alligator or crocodile is upstairs, most likely an alligator.
Crocodile.
The creature upstairs is nipping at the kid's heels at the chandelier, and he finally gets whooshed out of the house as the doors go open.
Yeah.
Saving them.
They're in the attic, and Alan rolls and gets quicksand.
Yeah, he has a really bad CG effect that has him sink into the ground and almost fall, I guess, all the way to the ground floor.
They quickly roll again, and Alan ends up getting stuck through the floor.
So this cancels out the previous effect of the last roll, which is a new thing that just gets introduced in this movie.
Yeah.
That's not how anything else has worked before. The quicksand should never stop, right?
Right.
I mean, everything else is keep going. The hunter's still out there hunting. The stampede is still stampeding. The monkeys are still monkeying.
Exactly.
All the creatures are their own name as a verb is basically what's going on.
Peter rolls and gets spiders. He gets plastic Halloween spiders.
These are awful looking spiders.
They're the worst in the movie.
Yeah, like, the alligator effect I think was pretty solid, honestly. I think that's one of the movie's better effects. It's mostly practical. There's only a couple times it's CG and it works. Like when it's flying down the street with David Allen Greer and Bibi Newirth on the doors as their rafts. Like that's CG clearly. But even in that, I think it's a good joke. But these spiders are practical. They're awful. And when they're CG, they're even worse.
Yeah.
It's just the worst of both worlds. They don't look convincing at all. They don't move in a convincing fashion. They're clearly like moving on a wheel on their stomach when the legs aren't even correlating to how they are moving. Mm-hmm. It's an incredibly pathetic effect.
That's really bad.
Yeah, like every now and then when like I just had to watch The Thing and watch the spider head move accurately with each leg, or at least it looks that it does. Even when it's the remote head, it looks a lot better. And that was 10 years before this movie.
They're Halloween decorations.
Yeah, it's just a truly abysmal effect. And like I said, this wasn't a cheap movie. You're talking around a $65 million budget.
Yeah.
The effects don't hold up, and that's a practical one that doesn't.
Judy gets sprayed by the vines and a barb hits her. The aunt makes it back to the house and finds the lion. Sarah rolls and gets an earthquake.
Yeah, and that splits the house in two, which actually is an impressive effect.
Yeah.
And this frees Alan from the quicksand that he was stuck in. Well, not even quicksand, just stuck in the wood.
He grabs the game and runs. He tries to roll, but Van Pelt stops him. He rolls anyways and wins the game.
Yeah.
And this is where all the creatures...
the hunter gives him...
Everybody.
Van Pelt gives him one last word, and it's like, Jumanji.
And stuff gets sucked back into the game.
In a very unconvincing effect.
Mm-hmm. And that is basically the end of the movie. We get to Alan and Judy. They're back in 1969.
So let's talk about this ending. There's a lot of ways I think you can end this movie. And I think it's very strange that they never thought, like, okay, we don't go back in time.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens. We go immediately back to when they started playing the game.
But they have their memories. So they grow up and they move on with life knowing that they've played this game and been adults already.
Yeah, so
it's weird.
They can be mega rich because she knows about the future.
Yeah.
I don't think she knows like Super Bowl winners or anything like that, but she's going to know when and, well, no, she'll know not to invest in Apple.
She'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She'll know dump Apple stock at all costs. They're a loser company.
They're going to be so
She
rich.
came out in 1994. But she'll know a bunch of other things. She'll know to invest them in the 80s. So yeah, they're going to have that option, and it's just a strange idea if you think about it. That, like I said, they go all the way back in time. I guess because Alan missed, but nothing said that Alan was going to miss that time. It only happened because she ran out of there, and the adults wouldn't let her go back in to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you think the adults would have been a little bit weirded out by the game open and there, right?
Yeah.
You don't think one adult would have looked at it and went like, "Oh, the pieces don't move," and accidentally roll the dice? Or maybe it only affects kids.
I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
maybe-
a good question.
Yeah, maybe it only affects kids because they were kids when they started the game, so they're still in it.
It's always kids in the game
Yeah.
being affected.
Yeah, it's the
so-
kids that hear the drums, so it appears that that's how it works. The kids had to bury it before. This is some unanswered questions here in this movie, but it's not that big a deal, really.
And then we go to it's Christmas time, and Alan and Sarah are grown up, and Peter and Judy are there.
So this, I do like that they use their knowledge of the future to prevent the deaths of their parents.
yeah.
And it leads to a great gag. Like, actually, we're going to go skiing in a couple of weeks. Like, no, no, which is an appropriate reaction when you find out someone's about to go on their death trip.
Yeah.
So they employ them right at that moment in time, and they prevent this event from ever occurring in the timeline.
Yeah.
And so they make the best timeline they can for themselves. Alan's father still appears to be dead. Both his parents do. They're not at the party as far as I can tell, but it's probably because they didn't want to put him. They probably didn't want to pay the cost for old people makeup for them.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming, yeah, because if you're assuming it's a happier timeline, I'm assuming Alan's father doesn't die of heartbreak in 26 years.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the mother. You know, because we missed that when we talked about the homeless guy. Is Alan's dad let the company completely fail because he spent the rest of his life searching for his son,
Mm-hmm.
which is I guess a good thing for you to know as a son who was missing, but a horrible thing to sort of realize that
Yeah.
that event destroyed your entire family. But those sort of elements that are in the movie that make it sort of interesting, that kind of have it rise above a kind of a standard blockbuster fare, really kind of peter out of the movie at a certain point, which is a real shame. I have a hard time giving recommendation to a big effects blockbuster that has crappy effects.
Yeah.
But I will give this the lowest recommendation I can possibly give a movie.
I enjoy the movie. It's
It
nostalgic
can be
for
fun.
me.
It can be fun.
Can be fun.
Yeah.
It just, you're right. The effects do really bring this movie down.
Yeah, and for what is like a kid's movie, it can be surprisingly dark and maybe a little intense for the younger kids. So I would recommend that if you do have a kid under 7, this movie can still, pack a few of the scares. So be careful in that respect. It could give you some
It
nightmares.
was the 90s, though.
Yeah, even
Their time.
then, this feels like an 80s movie in how it's laid out.
Mhm.
Gremlins is just randomly, my father killed himself accidentally in the chimney coming down to surprise the Christmas.
Yeah.
Like you could get that kind of darkness in a family movie then that you really couldn't 10 years later even. That's why this movie is a little surprising at the time, and you certainly wouldn't hear of any of that kind of darkness today in a family movie.
All right. I got a little bit of trivia for you. Nothing really too interesting, unfortunately. This movie was kind of boring in its facts. Robin Williams was beloved by Keene, New Hampshire townfolk during filming. He was even presented with the keys to the city by Keene's mayor in 1994. After his death in 2014, Keene residents crafted a makeshift memorial of flowers and candles below the Paris shoe sign, and even organized a private screening of the film.
That's kind of cool.
Kirsten Dunst and Bonnie Hunt greatly enjoyed working with Robin Williams, as he made everyone laugh on set. Dunst particularly liked his impression of Jodie Foster and Nell ordering at a drive-thru.
Tay in the wind.
Yeah,
We've had a lot of fun with Nell in the past.
we have.
Yeah.
personal joke in our house.
Nell was probably the worst Oscar bait movie you're ever going to find.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Jodie Foster, just like, I'm going to win 10 Oscars for this right here. I'm going to play a woman can't even speak a real language. And she's quite good in it, but who gives a fuck?
Yeah, it's a stupid movie.
It is.
It is not known who played the gun shop owner's assistant Louise in the movie, and the actress is not credited in the end credits. To this day, the actress's identity remains a mystery.
How did that happen in the modern day?
Oh, no.
She didn't get a form filled out or anything. She has a line, doesn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she has a line, so she would have gotten paid.
Mm. Robin Williams said acting alongside CGI effects was like taking LSD because you had to hallucinate everything. Special effects and graphics are inserted into the film in post-production, so actors must interact with animals and objects that aren't really there.
Yeah, I think we all know how CG works.
I just wanted you to know.
That's a fact. It's an interesting movie fact in 1997. That's not an interesting movie fact for 2024.
What do you know? I told you the facts were pretty boring.
Yeah, blame the facts.
Old ScarJo auditioned for the role of Judy Shepard.
That's Scarlett Johansson for the uninitiated.
While on Jay Leno's show promoting this film, Robin Williams said about the VFX, "Some are computer generated, but a lot are animatronics, which are like Muppets on steroids. One day I was wrestling a crocodile and I hit it on the head. All of a sudden from inside I hear, 'Hey!' There's a guy inside going, 'Hey man, it's Tim.'" And that concludes trivia for this movie.
Oddly enough, even though the movie was a hit, I wouldn't say it stayed necessarily culturally relevant, even though it did live for a long time on TBS and TNT. This was a mainstay at cable for a solid 10 to 15 years.
Reviews for this movie: 4.7 user review, 51% on Rotten Tomatoes, 7.1 out of 10 on IMDb, and a 39% on Metacritic. And basically this week, I went with a 1-star review. And there wasn't too many reviews, oddly enough, to go after, so this is as good as I could find. Your standard kids find a haunted board game in the attic jungle adventure. All kidding aside, Jumanji merits points for dreaming up a fun, simple formula that allows for all sorts of unexpected mayhem without completely losing track of reality. A little mysticism never hurt anyone, I suppose. Apart from the random lady who was just stung into a coma by a roving band of gigantic bloodthirsty mosquitoes. Robin Williams is a good choice for the lead, pairing his rough, burly figure with a boyish charm, which makes him both endearing to his young co-stars and physically appropriate for the action scenes.
I would agree.
He doesn't have a lot of room to improvise, though, which is a drawback, and the ambitious special effects have aged very poorly. Hammy supporting work from David Alan Grier doesn't help the cause, fitting right in with the slow stream of hollow secondary characters. Through Jonathan Hyde does not deserve positive marks in a limited villainous role. It tries to reach for substance and heart, but in the end, this one is just a simple slab of watery, kid-friendly action with unusually good hook.
Well, he didn't really care for it, but he didn't necessarily hate the movie. I kind of feel weird about that.
I find that a lot in the reviews. When I was going through a whole lot of reviews, and basically all the bad ones were very similar to that. They were like, I like the movie, but.
Yeah. Well, I really see the point in a lot of those. Like, it's uneven, and that's what you get with an uneven movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just the way it is. I think for what it is, it's solid. You know, we didn't even mention this is based off a book, and this book is only around 30 pages, and it's simple. You know, an incredibly well illustrated picture, and then only a few lines of text on the other side, and that's how every page of the book really worked. So they had to invent a lot of the story and make up a lot of really what's there to pad out to 90 minutes, and they do a good job, but. Like I said, it is a bit uneven still to this day.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the final word here on Jumanji. There's nothing else that can be said about this film. Am I right?
I was waiting for it.
You're supposed to say something.
Alive. He was alive.
That's right. In the year of our Lord 1995, Roger was very much alive.
Ooh.
Restrained. And you know what? I think he thought Jumanji was the greatest film ever made.
No, I don't think he did.
He did not believe that at all. Roger Ebert did not care for this film in the least, and this might be one of his lesser reviews, if you can believe that. Ebert wasn't always spitting fire, and I think this is the one time that he was a little off. Roger Ebert says, Jumanji is being promoted as a jolly holiday season entertainment, with ads that show Robin Williams with a twinkle in his eye. The movie itself is likely to send younger children fleeing from the theater or hiding in their parents' arms. Those who do sit all the way through it are likely to toss and turn with nightmares inspired by its frightening images. Whoever thought this was a family movie, the MPA rates it PG, not even PG-13, must think kids are made of stern stuff. This film was a gloomy special effects extravaganza filled with grotesque images generating fear and despair. Even for older audiences, there were few redeeming factors, because what little story there is serves as a coat hook for the FX sequences, which come out of nowhere and evaporate into the same piece. The film opens up in 1869 as a sturdy chest is buried in the woods. What if someone digs it up? A shadowy worker asks. God help them, he's told. We flash forward to 1969, as a little boy named Alan finds the chest in a construction site and opens it to discover a board game named Jumanji. He rolls the dice and is instantly fascinated with the game's supernatural powers. The pieces on the board move themselves. The game communicates with ghostly messages that float into focus on its cloudy lens. And Alan is attacked by a cloud of bats. Another flash forward in time, this time to the present, as two other kids find the game in an old mansion that has been abandoned for years. This is none other than Alan's childhood home, and when the kids begin playing the game, Alan materializes once again. He has been in limbo all this time, growing to manhood, and is now played by Robin Williams. His first words are, "Where's my mom and dad?" But there's no time for sentimentality now. He makes friends with children, Judy and Peter, and together they begin to explore the world of Jumanji, which contains jungle terrors, and they will be attacked by lions, monkeys, rhinos, elephants, giant insects, poison darts, plants that strangle them, and other plants that eat things, snakes, birds, mosquitoes, thunder, and lightning, and, it goes without saying, spiders. They will wrestle with a crocodile, and Alan will almost always be gobbled up by a pool by quicksand that appears in the middle of the mansion's floor. Other characters make their appearances. There's Van Pelt, also played by Jonathan Hyde, a big game hunter who has also been captured by the game. Is he captured by the game? I think he's just a thing that exists in the game.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a real person.
So.
Yeah.
Because he gets sucked into the game at the end.
Aunt Nora, B.B. Newworth, who has adopted little Judy and Peter. Somehow it is inevitable that they are orphans. And Sarah, Bonnie Hunt, who is the little girl who played Jumanji with young Alan on that fateful day in 1969, and now has grown up to become a reclusive fortune teller. The town shunned her because she insisted on telling the truth about her experience with the board game. The basic notion of the film is, two kids have lots of scary adventures with Robin Williams. Must have sounded good on paper, but the technicians have filled the screen with special effects, both conventional and animated, in such a way that the movie is now just as appropriate for smaller children as, say, Jaws. It's not bad enough that the film's young heroes have to endure an unremitting series of terrifying dangers. At one point, little Peter gets converted into a monkey that looks like a wolfman, and goes through the film like a miniature Lon Chaney, with a hairy snout and wicked jaws. This image alone is likely to be disturbing to small children. To me, it looked like a gratuitous cruelty on the part of the filmmakers towards this harmless young character. The underlying structure of the film seems inspired or limited by interactive video games. There is little attempt to construct a coherent story. Instead, the characters face one threat after another as new grotesque dangers jump at them. From lions to alligators, it's all just a bit remorse. It's like those video games where you achieve one level after another by killing and not getting killed. The ultimate level for young viewers will be being able to sit all the way through this film. 1.5 stars.
Yikes.
I was really concerned about the level of violence for kids in this movie. And I will admit it is a concern. It's a surprising PG.
Yeah.
And that was a part of the story for the movie back then, by the way, that the movie only got a PG. That was a note of a lot of critics' reviews. And not just critics, just people who had seen the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, the movie was still a hit. So.
Yeah, well, we will be covering
we did
a reboot next time.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that. It is a reboot, but not necessarily grittier.
I think it is.
It's not darker in this movie.
No,
not at all. The movie also has the same issue. Everybody goes back in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody goes back in time. Everybody goes back to their own time.
It's a better movie.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I do like the newer one a little bit better. Also has a really good sequel. The sequel to... Actually, I like the sequel to this Jumanji as well. So it was a thorough half sequel, but it is a sequel.
What's our socials?
Our socials, which we didn't say at the start of the show, that's Gritty Reboot. Search for that at Instagram and at TikTok, or you can email us at grittyrebootcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
And that's the easiest way for you to get a hold of us and let us know anything.
Anything.
Anything in the world. Any thought that comes to your mind, just send it. I don't care what it is. We want to hear it. Yeah.
We love you.
We do. We love you. We love you. That's the new slogan. Gritty Reboot, where we love you. With that being said, we love you and we're out.
Yep. Bye.